Good morning, Europe. It's Monday, the 13th of December. A very warm welcome to the programme. Let's start by looking at our top stories.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson warns of a tidal wave of the Omicron COVID-19 variant. He's promised to roll out 1 million vaccine booster jabs a day. The search for survivors continues in Kentucky after a series of tornadoes wrought havoc across the US state. More than 100 people are feared dead. And the leaders of the G7 nations warn Russia of massive consequences if it carries out a military invasion of Ukraine.
The UK's COVID alert level has been raised to level 4 amid concerns over the rapid increase in Omicron cases and a warning from Boris Johnson that the country's public health service is on its knees. In a statement on national television, the Prime Minister said booster vaccinations will now be offered to everyone over 18 in England, declaring it was an Omicron emergency.
No one should be in any doubt. There is a tidal wave of Omicron coming, and I'm afraid it is now clear that 2 doses of vaccine are simply not enough to give the level of protection we all need. But the good news is that our scientists are confident that with a 3rd dose, a booster dose, we can all bring our level of protection back up.
The UK has, to date, had a strong vaccination uptake, but not so in some other European countries. In Austria, weekend anti-jab protests brought out thousands onto the streets of the capital and triggered this plea from the country's interior minister.
I appeal to everyone not to go to the demonstration, but perhaps to talk to your doctor and protect yourself. You are doing something for your health.
By way of trying to encourage people to get a jab, Austria has ended its lockdown restrictions for vaccinated people across most of the country, but for those who are unvaccinated, restrictions remain in place. The circulation of the newly detected Omicron variant is causing turmoil within the European Union, as all member states are imposing tightened travel rules. Meanwhile, Israel is banning its citizens from travelling to Britain, Denmark and Belgium from Wednesday.
In the US, dozens of people remain unaccounted for as rescue workers continue to scramble through the wreckage following Kentucky's deadliest tornado on record. The state is one of 6 to have seen entire communities levelled as more than 30 twisters wreaked havoc on Friday. Mayfield was Kentucky's worst-hit city. President Joe Biden has approved a state of emergency declaration, providing desperately needed funds and support.
The National Guard has been deployed. We have over 300 guardsmen that are active. They are out in our communities. They are doing everything from going door to door, though in many of these communities we don't have doors anymore. They're going rubble to rubble, searching hopefully for survivors, but otherwise to at least have certainty for families that we can advise them of their loss.
Volunteers are distributing food, clothes and toiletries to people in need from a local church. Jason Recinto was a forklift driver at a destroyed candle factory where employees were trapped and many people died.
Words can't describe it, to be honest with you. The fire department I belong to is a volunteer. I actually worked at that building, and it's just total devastation.
40 people have been rescued from the collapsed candle factory in Mayfield, but at least 60 more remain missing, and officials say it's unlikely there'll be any more survivors.
There were strong warnings aimed at Russia on the last day of the G7 summit in the UK as foreign ministers united against Moscow. It's amid tensions over the build-up of Russian troops at Ukraine's border. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss spoke about huge repercussions if there were to be an invasion.
World's largest economies are united. We've sent a powerful signal to our adversaries and our allies. We've been clear that any incursion by Russia into Ukraine would have massive consequences for which there would be a severe cost. We've also shown that we stand for freedom and democracy and the right of people everywhere to live free from oppression.
The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken attended the summit at Liverpool over the deeply concerning troop build-up at Ukraine's eastern border. Other topics of discussions included China's economic policies and nuclear talks with Iran.
French fishermen are unhappy at the way a post-Brexit dispute over fishing rights has been settled. Intensive talks between London and Paris have produced an agreement whereby London will issue 83 more operating licences to French vessels, allowing them to continue working in UK territorial waters. But the move doesn't fully meet their demands, and some in Brittany say they'll still go ahead with the planned blockade of Calais on December 23rd. We'd like our friends from Jersey, Guernsey and Normandy to all be around the table, not to be there just telling us this boat is on the green list, the red list or the blue list. That doesn't get us anywhere. We have a quota of licences that we want, and we absolutely want to obtain that quota. We don't want one or two boats to be left out because the administration has decided to put them on the red list. We're a little disgusted. It will be a year on December 23rd since we were told, wait, there are solutions that are coming, things are moving forward, and in the end there's nothing. The French government says it will seek to assist those who so far have not been successful in their applications for licences.
The French overseas territory of New Caledonia will remain with France following a third and final referendum on self-determination for the South Pacific island. The French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed the result. In a televised address he said, "Tonight France is more beautiful because New Caledonia has decided to stay here," stressing however that the archipelago remained deeply divided. Some independence campaigners have called to boycott the result, citing that the referendum should have been postponed because of the COVID-19 epidemic, which according to them did not allow for a fair campaign. 96% of the electorate voted against independence. However, voter turnout stood at just 44%. But the president of the southern province of New Caledonia denounces those who question the legitimacy of the latest vote.
We had three referendums. The first two were won by the pro-France supporters, and this third referendum was requested by the independent side. They decided not to participate. I'm sorry, but France has very clearly won tonight.
Now, over the next 18 months, the island will define the new status of the archipelago within the French Republic. An era of instability may lie ahead due to the independents promising to challenge the legitimacy of the vote before international bodies. They have also warned that they do not wish to meet with the French Minister for Overseas Territories, who arrived in the archipelago on Friday.
Max Verstappen has won his first world title, beating Lewis Hamilton at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The Red Bull driver overtook the seven-time world champion at the Formula One finale during the final lap in an historic finish. Throughout the nail-biting season, the Dutchman was neck and neck with his rival in 22 races spanning 4 continents. With 4 consecutive titles under his belt, the defeat puts an end to Hamilton's winning streak. The Englishman was hoping to surpass Michael Schumacher as Formula One's leading sportsman. However, Verstappen closes the tournament with a narrow 17-point lead. While Mercedes has dominated the championship in recent years, this season marks Red Bull's first F1 title since 2013.
French President Emmanuel Macron is due to meet the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Budapest on Monday. The meeting concludes a tour of all the EU capitals ahead of France's 6-month rotating presidency of the European Union, which is due to start on January 1st. Right-wing Orban and Macron are political adversaries, particularly over the rule of law, but Macron says Europe has to work together despite differences. Our correspondent explained more about the meeting and what's likely to be on the agenda.
In view of France's forthcoming presidency, President Macron has visited the EU heads of government in a series of meetings. The last one remaining is Hungary, where the French head of state will first meet with President János Áder and then Prime Minister Viktor Orban in an unexpectedly tense atmosphere. Emmanuel Macron is the first Western leader who comes to Hungary in a long time, and his visit to Budapest is timed to coincide with the V4 summit, which will be held in the Várkert Bazaar and will be joined by the French president. Before his visit, President Macron said of Viktor Orban that he was a political opponent but a European partner, and that they should work together to fight compromises for Europe. The main areas of disagreement are expected to be the rule of law and the European minimum wage. At the end of the meeting, a joint international press conference will be held.
Brazil is to demand proof of vaccination against COVID-19 from foreigners arriving in the country. The decision by a Supreme Court judge invalidates regulations previously issued by the National Health Agency that required only a negative PCR test for visitors. The fresh ruling goes against the wishes of President Jair Bolsonaro, who says he's still not been vaccinated. He's previously prevented the health agency demanding proof of vaccination from visitors ahead of the famous Rio Carnival. Earlier in the week, Bolsonaro likened the vaccine requirement to a dog collar and questioned why it should be imposed on the Brazilian people. The president added that he would prefer to die rather than lose his freedom. The latest ruling is being seen as another defeat for Bolsonaro, who's repeatedly undermined efforts to control the spread of COVID-19, despite Brazil being one of the world's hardest hit countries by the pandemic.
Day after day, Helder walks for miles to fight fear and disinformation. His job is to patrol the streets on the outskirts of Maputo, Mozambique's capital, to raise awareness among young people about the vaccination against COVID-19. It is a mission set out by the Mozambican Ministry of Health, which aims to immunise all adults of the country's 30 million inhabitants by the end of 2022. But getting 17 million people vaccinated is not always an easy task.
You arrive in a house and you get 3-4 people who haven't been vaccinated yet. So that's the reason why we adopted a system of going door to door. So the mobilizer goes, and when he gets 5-6 people, he brings them here.
The Mozambican Health Ministry says that at least 6.8 million people have taken the first jab, 4.3 million the second. However, the country still has some pockets of resistance, especially among young people. They are the target group of this new vaccination campaign.
The vaccine is effective. At least it decreases the probability of people being hospitalized. We still can get COVID, but in a lighter way. So people should trust the vaccine and come here to get vaccinated. And it doesn't hurt.
With the approaching festive season and the possible imminence of a fourth wave, the government are appealing for young people to take the jab.
Thousands have marched in Istanbul to denounce the rise of poverty in the country and to demand an increase of the minimum wage. Turkey is suffering a currency calamity because the lira hit record lows against the dollar, losing nearly 30% in value in the last month alone. Annual inflation has surged over 20%, decimating the Turks' purchasing power. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett is in the United Arab Emirates. It's the first ever visit there by an Israeli premier. It's part of a diplomacy blitz against the backdrop of struggling nuclear talks with Iran. Israel has recently dispatched its top diplomat and its defense chief to meet allies in Europe, the US and the Middle East to push for a firmer approach to Tehran. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is receiving treatment for mild COVID-19 symptoms after testing positive for the viral infection on Sunday. The president, who is fully vaccinated, started feeling unwell after earlier leaving the state memorial service in honour of the former president F.W. de Klerk in Cape Town. The president is said to be in good spirits.
And the winner of European Film 2021 is...
The European Film Awards, recognising the very best of European cinema, was partly virtual this year.
Quo Vadis Aida, directed by Jasmila Zimbanek.
The European Film Academy, which brings together 4,200 film professionals from across the continent, bestowed the Best Film Award to Quo Vadis Aida. The powerful wartime drama also secured prizes for Best Director and Best Actress, respectively. The Bosnian picture reflects on the Srebrenica massacre during the 1995 Balkan War, when Serbian troops executed over 8,000 Bosniak males.
This film is dedicated to women and mothers of Srebrenica, and they killed sons, husbands, fathers. 3 generations of men exterminated because of their names. The women of Srebrenica find a way to build peace in a completely destroyed country. Women always have to fix the mess made by men. I dedicate this award to the women of Srebrenica and to our mothers who taught us how to turn destruction into love.
The protagonist, a UN translator, Aida, tries to leverage her position to save her husband and her 2 grown sons.
Please check again.
Please don't make me nominated for Best Foreign International Feature Film by the Academy Awards earlier this year, the picture is an exemplary European co-production, boasting 10 producers from 10 different countries. Sir Anthony Hopkins also had a share of the spotlight. The Welshman won the Best Actor award for Florian Zeller's The Father, which also won the Best Screenplay award. The other big winner of the evening included Flea by French-Danish director Jonas Poa Rasmussen.
By Jonas.
Having already won Best Documentary at Sundance and Best Animated Film at Annecy, the flick also swept up the title for Best Documentary and Best Animated Film. While the director was unable to collect the award in person, he expressed his joy on screen. The movie follows the true story of Amin, an Afghan who had to flee his country in the late 1980s when he was just a child. 30 years later, as a university student in Denmark, he tells his best friend about his journey and how he fought for his freedom.
That's it for now, but do stay with us as we bring you all the latest from across Europe and beyond. Don't forget you can follow us too on social media and our website, euronews.com.